power, greed, and survival, three forces that collide in Landman. But what makes Season 1 so unforgettable is not just the story of oil and money. It's the way the show digs deep into the heart of ambition and exposes how far people will go to protect what they believe is theirs. Season 1 isn't just about drilling wells or striking deals. It's about drilling into the human soul. And once you step into this world, there's no turning back. Landman Season 1 begins by pulling us straight into a world most of us only hear about in headlines, the oil fields of West Texas. But here, it's not just about pipelines, rigs, and contracts. This is a place where fortunes are made and lost overnight. It's where the land itself becomes a battleground, and every decision feels like it carries the weight of history. From the very first episode, we're shown that this story isn't going to be clean or simple. It's messy, raw, and filled with people who live on the edge of both wealth and ruin. The setting itself is a character. The wide-open plains, the relentless heat, the machinery cutting into the earth, it all mirrors the character's hunger for power. When you watch, you don't just see the oil business, you feel it. The dirt under the fingernails, the sweat dripping down brows, the roar of machines digging deeper into the ground. This isn't a polished corporate office story, it's the front line of an empire being built in dust and blood. What makes this opening so effective is how quickly it establishes stakes. Every moment, from the first deal struck to the first betrayal hinted at, tells us that the world of Landman is unforgiving. There are no easy wins here. Behind every handshake, there's a knife waiting to cut. Behind every promise, a secret waiting to explode. The writers don't waste time with fluff. They make you feel the tension immediately. We see characters who carry themselves with pride, but we also see the cracks in their armor. Some of them are here to conquer, some are just trying to survive, and others are caught in between, forced to make impossible choices. And that's what keeps the audience locked in. The question of how far each character will go when pushed against the wall, as the stage is set. We realize something important. This isn't just a story about oil. It's a story about people, about family, ties stretched thin, about dreams clashing with reality, about loyalty tested by greed. The oil fields may be the backdrop, but the real drama is happening in the hearts and minds of the people trying to stake their claim. From the very first shots, the atmosphere tells us everything we need to know. This will be a battle. Not just a battle for money or land, but for respect, for survival, and for identity. And in Landman Season 1, every battle leaves scars. Every great story is built on the shoulders of its characters. And Landman Season 1 wastes no time showing us that the people who walk across these dusty plains are as sharp and unpredictable as the land they fight for. To understand the best moments of the season, we first need to know who these players are, because each one carries a different piece of the puzzle. Their ambitions, their flaws, and their secrets are what drive this story forward. And when they collide, sparks fly at the heart of it all. We meet Tommy Norris, a man who represents the struggle of the working class in the oil business. Tommy isn't a polished executive in a skyscraper, he's the guy on the ground, the one who feels the sweat, the dust, and the pressure of survival every single day. Through Tommy, we see the harsh truth. This industry doesn't forgive weakness. But Tommy isn't weak. He's stubborn, resilient, and willing to risk everything just to carve out his own piece of respect. Every time he steps into a scene, you feel the weight of someone who has already fought 100 battles and knows 100 more are waiting. Then there's Ainsley Norris, his wife, who brings a different layer of strength to the story. She's not just a partner standing in the background, she's a voice of reason, force that keeps Tommy grounded even when the world around them tries to rip them apart. Ainsley is the kind of character that reminds us that behind every fight for power, there's also a fight for family. Her presence makes the story more than just deals, and drilling it makes it human. Through her, we see the sacrifices and emotional costs that come with living in a world driven by money and power. Of course, every story about power needs its titans, those who seem untouchable, those who set the rules of the game. In Landman, These figures come in the form of wealthy oil magnates and corporate players who hold the keys to unimaginable fortunes. They stand at the top, looking down at people like Tommy, and every interaction between the two worlds reminds us of the giant divide between ambition and achievement. These powerful characters don't just represent wealth, they represent control. They remind us that in this story, influence is just as valuable as oil, and the people who hold both are dangerous. But what makes Landman so compelling is that the characters aren't simple heroes or villains. They're layered, complicated, and flawed. One moment you might admire their courage, and the next you might question their choices. It's this complexity that keeps us glued to the screen. No one is clean in this story. Everyone has something to hide, something to fight for, and something to lose. Even the supporting characters, friends. Rivals, workers in the oil fields, add richness to the story. Each one feels like a real person with their own struggles. The field hands who risk their lives every day. The middlemen who try to cut deals in the shadows. The families who watch from the sidelines while their futures are gambled away. All of them remind us that the oil business is not just about big names. It's about everyone caught in its orbit. By the time we finish meeting these characters, one thing is clear. Landman is not just telling us about the oil industry. It's telling us about people trying to survive in a world where every choice has consequences. The characters are the lifeblood of Season 1. They are the reason every twist feels sharp. Every betrayal feels personal, and every victory feels hard-earned. Without them, the land would just be dirt. But with them, the land becomes a battlefield, and every viewer knows this fight is just beginning. What makes Landman Season 1 stand out are the moments that hit like a thunderclap, those scenes that pull you to the edge of your seat and refuse to let go. These aren't just random events in a story. They're the turning points, the beats that define the entire season. Each dramatic moment feels heavy, as if the earth itself is shaking beneath the weight of greed, loyalty, and betrayal. And it's these scenes that stay with us long after the credits roll. One of the first dramatic moments comes from the raw tension of survival in the oil fields. The camera doesn't shy away from the dangers, the machinery roaring the ground, trembling, and men working with their lives on the line. It's not just physical danger, it's emotional. Every time something goes wrong on a rig, you're reminded that this world is as fragile as it is powerful. The danger of fire, collapse, or even one bad decision makes these scenes pulse with energy. They're not just about oil, they're about life and death. Then there are the moments of betrayal. In Landman, trust is as rare as an untapped well, and when it's broken, it cuts deep. Deals made in back rooms, handshakes that promise loyalty, whispers that carry lies. Re-betrayal feels like a knife twisting slowly. The brilliance of the writing is that these betrayals don't always come from the enemies you expect. Sometimes they come from the people closest to you, the ones you thought you could depend on. And when those moments hit, they shatter everything around them. But drama in Landman isn't only about betrayal and survival, it's also about family and sacrifice. Some of the most powerful moments are not set in the boardrooms or the rigs, but at home, in the quiet spaces where love collides with ambition. The tension between what characters want for themselves and what they need for their families creates a storm that feels just as dangerous as any business deal. You can feel the weight of choices pressing down on them, to chase the dream of wealth, or to protect the people they love, no matter which way they turn. Something precious is always at risk. One unforgettable thread through Season 1 is the clash between ambition and morality. Characters are pushed to decide what lines they're willing to cross. Do they stand by their values, or do they let the hunger for power swallow them whole? These moments where decisions are made under fire bring the most intense drama of all. Because in Landman, there are no easy choices, only sacrifices. And then, of course, come the big reveals. The moments when secrets spill into the open. When characters can no longer hide what they've been plotting in the dark. These scenes carry a kind of electricity, dialogue sharp as blades. Faces tight with anger. The silence between words louder than any shout. When the truth surfaces, doesn't just change one person's fate, changes the entire game. What makes all these dramatic moments so powerful is how real they feel. Stakes aren't just about oil or money. They're about identity, dignity, and survival. You don't just watch these moments, you feel them, as if you two are standing in the middle of that scorching Texas heat. Caught between right and wrong, survival and ruin, Season 1 of Landman doesn't hold back. It gives us drama in its purest form, raw, human, and unforgettable. And each of these moments builds on the last, layering tension until you realize you're not just watching a story, you're living inside it. If there is one word that defines Landman Season 1, it's power. The struggle for it is everywhere, in boardrooms, in oil fields, in homes, and even in whispered conversations behind closed doors. And what makes this season so gripping is that power is never stable. One moment, someone seems untouchable, and in the next, their entire empire is on the verge of collapse. The oil industry itself is a battlefield. Every barrel represents money, influence, and control. But in Landman oil is more than a resource, it's the lifeblood of survival, a weapon, and sometimes a curse. The power struggles aren't just about digging into the ground. They're about digging into people's lives, carving out pieces of their identity, testing their limits. On one side, you have the corporate giants. It's the wealthy magnates who sit at the top pulling the strings. They have the money, the lawyers, and the influence to bend situations in their favor. But even with their wealth, they're not untouchable. They constantly watch their rivals, knowing that one wrong move, one miscalculated deal, could cost them everything. These powerhouses don't just play the game, they set the rules. The rules are ruthless. On the other side, there are the working men and women. It's the ones who actually risk everything to keep the oil flowing. They may not have money or political clout, but they have grit, resilience, and a refusal to bow down. Characters like Tommy Norris show us that real strength isn't always measured in dollars. It's measured in the ability to stand up against impossible odds. His clashes with the powerful show us that the divide between the elite and the everyday worker is more than just financial, it's personal. The most explosive power struggles happen when these two worlds collide. A single contract, a piece of land, or a drilling site can become the spark that ignites a war. Deals that look clean on paper quickly turn bloody in reality because in Landman, no one wants to back down. And when pride and ego mix with ambition, the result is pure chaos. But not all battles are fought in the open. Some of the most dangerous power struggles in Season 1 happen in the shadows. Secrets are traded like currency, alliances are made in whispers, and betrayal hides in plain sight. One of the most intense parts of the season is watching characters smile across the table while quietly planning each other's downfall. These are wars fought with silence, patience, and strategy, and when they finally erupt, the damage is devastating. The beauty of Landman is that it shows power not as a prize, but as a burden. Everyone wants it, but no one can truly hold on to it. The more you fight for it, the more it costs you family, friends, trust, even your own soul. Season 1 makes this crystal clear. In the world of oil and ambition, power doesn't come free. Every victory leaves scars, and every loss cuts deeper than the land itself. By the end of the season, one truth is impossible to ignore. Power in Landman is never permanent. It shifts like the Texas wind, and those who chase it must always be ready to bleed for it. That's what makes these power struggles so captivating, because in this world, winning doesn't mean you're safe. It only means you're next in line to be challenged. Beneath the roar of drilling rigs and the cutthroat world of deals, Landman Season 1 finds its heart in the quieter moments. The ones that remind us why all this fighting for power even matters. Because at its core, this story isn't only about oil, land, or money. It's about people, about family ties tested under pressure, and about the sacrifices made in the name of survival. These emotional highlights give the season its soul, making every dramatic twist cut even deeper. One of the most powerful threads in the season is the bond between Tommy Norris and his wife, Ainsley. Their relationship shows us what it really costs to live in a world built on ambition. Tommy carries the weight of the oil fields on his shoulders, but Ainsley is the one who bears the emotional storms at home. every argument, every moment of silence between them reminds us that the fight for a better life comes with personal risks. When Tommy pushes forward, chasing opportunities that could change their future, Ainsley is the voice reminding him of the cost: the family, the love, the peace that could be lost. Their love is strong, but it's also fragile, strained by the world they live in. And watching them struggle makes the story feel all the more real. The emotional core of Landman also lies in the families caught in the middle of this brutal industry. Wives, children, parents, people who don't drill, don't negotiate deals, but who feel every consequence of those who do. The show doesn't let us forget that behind every man chasing oil, there are people waiting at home, hoping he comes back safe. These moments, quiet and tender, balance the chaos with something far more powerful: vulnerability. There are also scenes where we see characters break, moments where the weight of ambition crushes them, where the mask of toughness finally cracks. These are some of the most unforgettable emotional highlights. The hardened worker who can't hold back tears after a loss, the wealthy magnate who realizes money can't buy loyalty, the partner who realizes love alone may not be enough. These are the moments that strip the characters down to their humanity. And that humanity is what hooks us to their stories. Even in the middle of betrayal and ambition, Landman reminds us that loyalty and love are still worth something. A hug after an argument, a sacrifice made quietly in the background, a decision to protect family, even when it means losing everything. These small but powerful moments show us that not all victories are measured in wealth or land. Some are measured in love and sacrifice, and in the courage to hold on to what truly matters. What makes these emotional highlights so striking is their contrast with the larger-than-life world of oil and greed. They show us that beneath the fight for power, these characters are just like us, afraid of losing loved ones, afraid of failing their families, afraid of being forgotten. And it's in these human moments where Landman Season 1 shines the brightest, by weaving these emotions into the story. The show gives us more than just drama. It gives us a reason to care, because without the tears, the love, the sacrifices, and the heartbreak, all the money and power would feel empty. It's these emotional highlights that remind us why this story matters, and why Season 1 leaves such a lasting impact on its audience. A story is only as strong as the people who bring it to life, and in Landman Season 1, the performances are nothing short of powerful. Every actor steps into their role with a rawness that makes you forget you're watching fiction. They don't just play characters, they become them. And it's this level of performance that turns every scene into something unforgettable. Take Tommy Norris, for example. His presence on screen carries both weight and vulnerability. You can see the struggle in his eyes, the exhaustion in his body, and the fire in his spirit. It's not easy to portray a man torn between survival, ambition, and family, but the performance makes you feel every layer of his conflict. When he stands tall against powerful enemies, you believe in his strength. And when he breaks in the quiet moments, you believe in his pain. That kind of honesty in acting is rare, and it makes Tommy's journey one of the strongest anchors of the season. Then there's Ainsley Norris, whose performance shines in a different way. She's the voice of reason, the emotional core, and the grounding presence in Tommy's storm. Her expressions, sometimes subtle, sometimes explosive, carry a truth that speaks louder than words. You can feel the love she has for her husband, the frustration of being pulled into his battles, and the quiet strength of a woman determined to protect her family. Her performance adds layers of humanity to the story, reminding us that the oil business doesn't just affect those in the field, it shakes entire households. The supporting cast also delivers standout moments that elevate the season. Magnates and corporate players aren't portrayed as one-dimensional villains. Their performances carry complexity. They're charming in one moment, terrifying in the next. The way they deliver lines with calm confidence or sharp intensity makes the audience constantly question their motives. These performances give the show its tension, because every time they appear on screen, you know something important is about to unfold. Even the smaller roles, the workers on the rigs, the negotiators in the shadows, the family members caught in the storm leave an impact because of the way the actors inhabit them. Their performances make the world of Landman feel lived in and authentic. You believe these are real people, not just side characters, because of the way they react. It's the way they struggle, and the way they bring truth to every moment. What makes these performances so memorable is not just the delivery of big, dramatic lines, but the quiet moments in between. A look, a pause, a silence that carries more weight than words. These small details create an atmosphere that lingers long after the scene ends. That's the mark of actors who understand not just their roles, but the heart of the story. In the end, the best performances of Landman Season 1 aren't about showiness, they're about honesty. They make us believe in the characters, care about their choices, and feel the weight of their struggles. Without these performances, the oil fields would just be dust and machines. But with them, the story breathes with life, tension, and heart. Beyond the story and the performances, Landman Season 1 grips the audience through its cinematic brilliance. Every frame feels intentional, every shot crafted to pull us deeper into this unforgiving world. It's not just a drama, it's a visual experience that makes us feel the grit of the oil fields, the weight of ambition, and the quiet tension between characters. The landscape itself is a character. And the cinematography makes sure we never forget it. Wide, sweeping shots of West Texas show us the endless plains, the burning sun, and the harsh beauty of the land. These visuals aren't just pretty, they remind us of the scale of what's at stake. The oil business is vast, dangerous, and overwhelming. And the camera captures that scale in a way that leaves us breathless. Then there are the intimate close-ups, faces lined with sweat, his hands heavy with secrets, hands gripping deals that could change everything. These moments bring us into the personal battles, showing us the cost of ambition not through words, but through silence and expression. The contrast between wide-open landscapes and tight, claustrophobic close-ups creates a rhythm that mirrors the story itself, freedom clashing with pressure, opportunity clashing with danger. Lighting plays a powerful role too. The harsh glare of the sun during drilling scenes makes the heat almost tangible, while dimly lit interiors create an atmosphere of secrecy and danger. Shadows linger in the corners, reminding us that nothing in this world is ever clear or safe. Even at night, the glow of rigs against the dark sky feels haunting, like monuments to human ambition carved into the earth. The sound design and music tie it all together. The roar of machinery, the hiss of steam, the crunch of boots on dirt, these sounds ground us in the reality of the oil fields. And then, layered over it, the score builds tension, swelling in dramatic moments and pulling back during quiet ones. The music doesn't just accompany the story, it shapes our emotions, guiding us to feel fear, hope, or dread exactly when the characters do. What makes Landman's cinematic style so brilliant is that it never feels staged. The world feels raw and lived in, like we're peeking into a reality that already exists. Nothing is polished, nothing is neat. Oh, the dust, the sweat, the danger, all of it comes through the screen as if we're standing right there in the middle of it. That authenticity makes the drama hit harder, because it feels like it's happening in the real world, not a distant fictional one. Together, the visuals, the lighting, the sound, and the atmosphere create something unforgettable. They make Landman more than just a story about oil. They make it a fully immersive experience. You don't just watch the show, you feel it. And that's the true mark of cinematic brilliance. Every great drama lives and dies by its twists, and Landman Season 1 does not hold back. Just when you think you know where the story is heading, the ground shifts beneath your feet. The show thrives on surprise and pulling away the curtain at the last possible second, and forcing you to see the characters and their world in a whole new light. These twists aren't cheap tricks, they're woven carefully into the story. And when they land, they feel like a punch straight to the chest. One of the biggest shocks comes from betrayal, where it's least expected. The show makes you trust certain characters, makes you believe in their loyalty, only to reveal their hidden motives. It's not betrayal for the sake of drama, it's betrayal that changes the direction of the story entirely. Deals fall apart. Alliances crumble, and the audience is left questioning, if this person can't be trusted, who can? Then there are the secrets buried beneath the surface, the kind that simmer in silence until they explode. A whispered conversation, a document hidden in plain sight, a truth kept behind tight lips, all of these create a slow burn of tension. And when the truth finally comes out, it doesn't just hurt one character. It spreads like wildfire, reshaping the story for everyone. The twists in Landman also play with power dynamics. One moment, a character seems unstoppable, standing tall with the upper hand, but the next, the rug is pulled from under them, and everything they built comes crashing down. The unpredictability of these shifts is what keeps us hooked because, in this world, no victory is permanent, and no downfall is final. Some of the most gripping twists come not from boardrooms or oil fields, but from family and personal lives. A revelation about a loved one, a hidden past, or a decision made years ago suddenly rises to the surface, shaking relationships to their core. These twists remind us that ambition isn't the only thing that haunts these characters, their personal histories do too. And sometimes the most painful truth comes not from business rivals, but from the people closest to them. What makes these twists so effective is the way the show delivers them. Pacing is deliberate, the tension stretched thin until you can't breathe, and then suddenly it all snaps. A look across the table, a line of dialogue, a reveal that drops like a hammer. You don't see it coming, but when it lands, everything changes. That's the brilliance of Landman. By the end of Season 1, the big twists leave us with more questions than answers. Who can be trusted? What's real? And what's just a performance? And most importantly, how far are these characters willing to go when the stakes keep rising? These shocks don't just shake the story. They ensure that viewers will come back, hungry for what happens next. In Landman, nothing is safe. Not alliances, not families, not even the ground beneath their boots. And that's what makes the twists unforgettable. In Landman, the battles for power, money, and survival don't just shape the story, they shape the people living inside it. What makes this series stand out is not only the tension of the oil fields, but also the way every twist carves scars into its characters, forcing them to grow, adapt, or break. Season 1 shows us that in this ruthless world, change isn't optional, lights the price of staying alive. Take the ambitious newcomer, for example. At the start, they step into the oil game full of dreams, ambition, and a spark of hope. But as the season unfolds, that spark is tested again and again. Betrayals sting, power plays crush their confidence, and suddenly, survival becomes more important than dreams. By the end, the same character who once carried wide-eyed belief now wears a harder, sharper edge. Their growth is not gentle, it's forged in fire. Then there's the seasoned veteran. Someone who's been around the block long enough to know that nothing comes easy in this business. At first, they seem unshakable, like a rock standing firm in the storm. But Landman doesn't allow anyone to stay still. This character is pushed to confront their past mistakes, face choices they've buried, and admit that their way of doing things might not work anymore. Growth here comes in the form of humility, learning that even the strongest must adapt to survive. Some of the most emotional growth comes from the family members caught in the crossfire. They aren't chasing oil or power, but they feel the ripple effects of every decision. A spouse who struggles to hold the home together, a child learning the cost of their parents' ambition, sibling dealing with fractured loyalty. Each one is forced to grow, not out of desire, but out of necessity. Their arcs remind us that the oil fields don't just consume land, they consume people's lives. One of the most compelling parts of Landman is how growth doesn't always mean progress. For some characters, change takes them to darker places. Ambition hardens into greed. Trust turns into paranoia. Love transforms into control. Watching these arcs unfold, we realize that growth can sometimes mean losing pieces of yourself. And that's what makes the story so painfully human. By the end of Season 1, we don't see the same characters we started with. They are tougher, more scarred, more complex. Some emerge stronger, ready for the next fight. Others are broken, haunted by choices they can't undo. And yet every single one of them feels real, Because growth in Landman is not about becoming perfect. It's about surviving the storm, no matter the cost. This is the magic of Landman. It doesn't just give us drama. It gives us people who live, struggle, and change before our eyes. Characters who remind us that when the land shifts, so must those who walk on it.